With all these festival coverage we're doing, I'm just going to title these videos Best of Fest. And for this episode, we're going to be talking about my favorite games from Bullet Heaven Fest of 2023. I guess it's only fitting that we begin our look at a Bullet Heaven with a game that takes place in the stars, with Arcadium. This game involves you traveling around galaxies fighting what appears to be a lot of space invaders. The kind of twist on the formula here is that you'll gain a lot of resources by landing on planets and kind of harvesting their resources. This will level you up, which you will then of course choose from different talents. These talents can be passive, give you new weapons, change your properties, all that good stuff. And you must survive. Now, what makes this one a little bit different is that there's a kind of ebb and flow that we normally don't see, or at least we haven't seen from too many Bullet Heavens. You see, you're not under constant attack. Instead, every about minute, 40 seconds or so, a new wave will start coming at you. This gives you time to explore the galaxy, go to shops, harvest more resources, etc., before the next wave comes and you must defend yourself from it. From what we played of this one, there seems to be some really good weapon variety and feel to the combat. And I'm not quite sure how far they're going to go in terms of persistence. We did see some unlocks of new talents, or just how much harder the game is going to get in the main version. But there is certainly potential here, if you like your Bullet Heavens with some space bullet hell along the way. Now, for those of you looking for some difficulty with your Bullet Heaven, we now have Roboom. In this one, you must, survive against lots and lots of things trying to kill you. The challenge of this one is that you really start behind the 8-ball in terms of your ability to defend and just try and stay one step ahead of the myriad of enemies and bullets coming your way. This is a game where you literally can't see the full area, or at least most of it, until you get an upgrade. So this one I think does have a little bit of issues in terms of balancing at the start. Like I said, your starting weapon just really does not do enough to give you a fair chance at surviving. And I am wondering about how the persistence will come into play, as I think you can either unlock items or powers to start with, or just unlock them to appear in the randomization. So this is not the one if you're looking for a very, pick up and play Bullet Heaven. But if you've been looking for one that definitely is going to give you some challenge with your dodging and shooting, then you should at least give this one a check. We now have another challenging one with Fellowship. This one, our twist, is that instead of you controlling one character, you can control up to 5. Each character is their own unique unit. They have their own kind of class and background, which also affects what upgrades you will get when you level up. Your mission, of course, is to survive against waves and waves of enemies using the power of friendship. Now, the kind of main element here is that you're able to control the orientation of your characters as well as the formation of them. This will of course affect who's in front, where they can attack, and so on and so forth. It's a more complicated version of what we saw with yet another Zombie Survivors. My problem with this is that I just do not like this interface. It adds, I think, an unnecessary level of cumbersomeness to trying to direct your characters, and the fact that they only attack in kind of very strict angles. So it's incredibly difficult to get characters to all kind of focus on a specific target or a specific direction of enemies. There is a lot of persistence in this one, including unlocking new kind of unlocks of characters and talents, as well as gaining equipment that you can put onto characters to provide them with passive bonuses. So this one certainly has some legs, at least 5 pairs of them, to check out, and I think there is something here. They can make the whole kind of a team management aspect a little bit easier or just a little bit safer to get characters to attack with, then Fellowship could be a fantastic Bullet Heaven worth your time. And now we have Fallen Force. a very unusual looking bullet heaven, where we are riding on top of the back or the head of some giant creature, and our goal is to knock all the enemies off who get in our way. The twist of this one is that it follows a similar wave-based format of, say, Rotado, where every few seconds when the wave is over you'll go to this strange looking shop in order to buy upgrades, raise your stats, and so on. The kind of unique mechanic here is that your gun can be charged up to knock enemies flying, and if you hit them through the various rings that are set up, you'll gain bonus resources or proc certain things depending upon your upgrades. Now, your basic shot just did not feel worth it to me, because it doesn't do enough damage and it doesn't really knock enemies back. And this one looks like it could be a fun time. I'm not quite sure where they're going to go in terms of persistence or any kind of variance. But if you're looking for, I guess, a sumo-esque take on the Bullet Heaven, then you should check this one out. And now we have Void Scrappers. We're back to space, as it's up to us to fly around the area collecting scrap and dealing with all the enemies that get in our way. This one, from the basic standpoint, doesn't really do anything too out of the ordinary. I do like the kind of weapons and how you can get different upgrades which will then modify them further. Of the bullet heavens that we've shown so far in this video, this one seems like the most, I guess, traditional in terms of its basic structure. I'm hoping that there will be more things to separate it from some of the other ones that we played beyond just the space aesthetic and theme. But if you like your bullet heavens with some space pew-pewing, then this one could be worth a check for you. And we have even more spaceship goodness with Eon Fighter. This is the first one on this video that I'm not quite sure this constitutes as a bullet heaven. But this is a twin stick shooter, where there's a heavy emphasis on persistent and progression. You'll choose different sectors in the galaxy which will affect your mission and overall difficulty. You're looking to collect cargo, which will allow you to turn into money, which will then be used to upgrade all your ships, unlock new ships, and so on. As you're fighting, you'll be able to upgrade over the course of a single play your weapons, which can unlock further modifiers for it, or new weapons as well. The twin stick shooting felt pretty good, and like I said, I'm not quite sure if this one is going to kind of fit into the realm of a bullet heaven, but it still felt like a very solid game. So you're looking for some twin stick shooting with a heaping dose of persistence and unlocks, this one may be worth a check for you. I don't know why we're getting so many space themed bullet heavens this time, but this is yet another one with Nebula. We control a kind of flying space station, and we must defend ourselves from waves and waves and waves and waves of spaceships and enemies coming to get us. So this one, once again, kind of fits in the basic parameters of a bullet heaven. Enemies are going to be coming from every which way trying to get at you. You'll kill them to collect the resources, which you can then use to unlock new weapons, passives, all that good stuff. It does, as you can see by the footage, get a little bit on the chaotic side. There are persistent unlocks, much like in all the other ones, and all in all, this one felt good, but it didn't really do anything again that I think would stand above and beyond for this formula. So once again, if you do enjoy space and you're looking for some bullet heaving to do in there, then this one may be at least worth a check for you. For this one, we have Slaycation Paradise, and I'm not quite sure if this one does fall into the bullet heaven category. But this is yet another twin stick shooter, but with an emphasis on roguelike and tower defense elements. The concept here is that we are on vacation to doomed alternate Earths, and we're going to have fun killing, looting, and powering ourselves up along with our family along the way. Each level or each dimension will have you completing various tasks. These tasks will allow you to unlock additional features as well as unlock more maps and things along those lines. When the horde comes in, you must defend yourself. You can switch between kind of your shooting and your various tools, and then you can construct various things based on if you have enough scrap. And you'll unlock recipes to get you new guns and new constructions as well. The defense side is okay. It can be a little weird to control as you have to maneuver your character as your pointer rather than the mouse itself. But the gunplay did feel good in this one, and I like the theme and what they're trying to go for. And as one final point, the game is definitely on the raunchier side. I don't know how quite mature they're going to get in this one, but there is definitely some adult humor here and there for it. So again, this one falls more along the lines of a shooter than I think more of a bullet heaven. But if the idea interests you, the demo is still available, and I would give this one a check. And now we have Roguenarok. This one definitely emulates that of Brotado, but with the added element of having towers that you can go to and have as a form of defense, along with your different weapons and abilities. Now, of the ones that I've shown so far, I feel like this one is the roughest in terms of an aesthetic and kind of the visual design. There's definitely some interesting aspects here with the different upgrades, the use of combining your weapons and the towers, but it's going to, I think, need to do a little bit more to stand out, especially with so many. We still have plenty more in this video in terms of bullet heavens to show off. But there's some good foundational elements here, and once again, if you're looking for another one to keep an eye out for, I would at least do that for this one and see where it will lead. We now have HiveCorp. This is a sci-fi bullet heaven. You play as a mercenary for the titled organization that's going to involve you going to planets, harvesting resources, and killing lots and lots of things that get in your way. One of the things I do like about this one is that the weapon variety is pretty nice, and weapons can be upgraded as well as your own characters like passives and kind of how you'll build them for that run based on various choices. One thing this game does that very few bullet heavens that I've played have also done is have more of a dynamic map. As you go through wave by wave, missions will pop up on the screen. They will usually involve you like collecting various things, killing a specific target, so on and so forth, and completing them will earn you various resources or gain a buff for a few precious seconds. The general combat itself, again, is good. Nothing at least unique on that respect in terms of the bullet heavens, but there are a lot of persistent elements, unlocking new weapons, passives, new maps, and so on. So this one certainly has some potential, I think, as yet another of our many bullet heavens that are being shown on this video. And now we do have something that is legitimately different with Saikyo Robots. In this one, this is a self-described vampire survivor meets pigman. How this works is that there's different robots littered around the map. You can move your tank over to them and kind of activate them, and then they will become your main weapons and defense on the map itself. If a robot gets killed, you can go to any remaining bodies and try and get them up and continue to grow your army and deal with the different enemies. I really like the different theme here of having your own little robot army. The main problem with this demo is that it really didn't show off, I think, too much of like advanced elements. Whether there's like different elements of persistence, anything in terms of bosses or unique enemies, and so on. But this one definitely has potential for being a different theme on the bullet heaven, then I would definitely give this one a check. And now we have When the Light Dies. This one, again, I'm not quite sure if it falls into the bullet heaven category, but this is a kind of survival take on the formula. Here we are stranded in the far north. Our crew is dead, and things may or may not be really happening. Nevertheless, we must survive wave after wave, keep our light and sanity up, and try not to die. I like the theme and the aesthetic of this. There's a Lovecraftian element that certainly runs through it, much like with Don't Starve. There are unlocks that will give you new weapons, change your passives, and new stuff at the beginning. My main thing with this one is that I'm not quite sure where the balance is going to go. The game warns you that you need to keep your sanity up, but I let my sanity go right to 0 many times, and it didn't seem to change anything. The idea is that you want to wait until the light is almost out when you're about to run out of lantern to then activate the campsite, because the camp has a limited light to it. And there are the upgrades that let you gain sanity back when you kill enemies, and those can be very handy indeed. I don't know if there's like an overall goal beyond survival, but this one certainly has some potential, and if they can kind of, I guess, tie this all together really well, this could be a kind of spooky take on the bullet heaven or just roguelike survival formula. We go from creepy and dark to bright and violent with Cleanup Crew. In this one, we are sent to planets to, well, clean up. And a lot of cute and not so cute critters are going to stand in our way. And we are going to have to turn them into nicely multicolored gibs in order to survive. For this one, you'll choose from different characters that have various perks, and you'll be able to unlock, of course, new features, persistence, and so on. In this one, you do have to aim your weapon, and you can get different modifiers and unlocks to help you. I went for good old multi-grenade shots to just splatter everything that got in my way. My main concern about this one is that it did feel like there was a lot of times where not much was really happening. You do get sometimes missions that can show up, or special events, but all in all, it just kind of felt like I was just standing around and killing and causing more and more red to appear on the screen. Now, I do like the aesthetic of this one, and if they can kind of give these maps a little bit more variety to them, along with the gunplay or general action, this could be a very colorful and very bloody take on the bullet heavens that you should check out. And now we have Super Killboi 9000. Here, we are a boy, and we have a lovely killbot that we are best friends with. And we are going to have to use the power of friendship and hearts in order to power them up and kill anything that gets in our way. The twist of this one is that you yourself are not really doing much. You have a stick and you move around. Instead, you need to collect the hearts that are dropped from enemies, which you can then feed to your Killboi in order to level them up, unlock different weapons, and let them do even more killing as the match goes on. I like the humor of this one. The game does a lot in terms of weapon synergies. Wow. Almost every weapon that we found had some kind of synergy or super bonus related to something else. Of the bullet heavens that we played, this one does feel like it's kind of on the shorter side. I don't know if there's really going to be hours of persistent elements like, say, a Vampire Survivors, but I did enjoy the theme and the general play of it. So you're looking for a later bullet heaven with a heavy emphasis on friendship. This one could be worth doing some tag teaming for. And now we turn to, I think, one of my surprise favorites from the festival, and that is BeatPunk. In this one, you must use the power of music in order to deal with your enemies. It's a rhythm-driven bullet heaven-like. But for this one, you do not need to be musically or rhythmically inclined. How this one works is when you level up, you can choose where you place your various weapons on the beat meter at the top. You can either add more attacks so you cover like longer of the song, or you can upgrade beats that are already there, enhancing those attacks when they come about. This one is definitely a little bit on the harder side, as once enemies start coming fast and furious, you need these stronger attacks in order to beat them. No pun intended with that one. And I was really enjoying this. The only concern that I have about BeatPunk is that I'm not sure if there's going to be any kind of persistence, unlocks, anything new that can show up on play-by-play. But definitely a very fresh take, and I really like what I was seeing with this one. So if you're looking for a little bit of music, or I guess beating, with your bullet heavens, I highly recommend you check this one out. We go from singing to slimes with Slime 3K. This is another entry in this kind of franchise, taking us to the bullet heaven side of things. You play as a giant slime who must survive against waves and waves of those annoying little humans that are coming to get you. While the general concept here is quite familiar at this point, the game has a very heavy emphasis on weapon progression. How this works is when you level up, you can go to a store and buy various cards. The cards are graded in terms of their power. So the kind of B, A cards are going to be stronger than your D and C cards. The cards that you can get during a run are the ones that you put into your deck before you begin playing. You'll unlock more cards of the various grades as you play through it. In order to upgrade, you must get 3 of a kind in your little hotbar at the bottom of the screen, which will enhance the card at 1 level, and you can go up to level 3 for any single card. And you'll need to make use of either upgraded cards or the higher graded cards if you want to have any chance of surviving when the waves become more and more dangerous. There is persistence in the form of unlocking new upgrades alongside the various cards. There is a kind of progression to Slime 3K as you'll go level by level, getting to harder and longer waves and so on. I was liking this one, but it does have that issue that it gets so hectic that it kind of feels like you're either going to win or you're not. Like there's no like in between. Like if you do not get the right cards, if you don't get the right grades, you're kind of sunk. The level itself is actually enclosed, so this is not a bullet heaven where you can just run indefinitely in a direction if the enemies are too big. So this one is a little bit more structured compared to some of the other ones we've shown in this video, and if you're looking for more, I guess, of an objective or unlock based bullet heaven, then you should give this one a try. And now we turn to Horde Hunters. This one, their kind of approach to make one of the more advanced bullet heavens that are on the market. And of all the ones that we've played, this one by far has the most kind of map interaction or map affecting aspects of the genre. As before, you will of course fight your way through hordes and hordes of enemies trying to get at you. But what this game does differently is that there are multiple interaction points on the map. Apple trees will provide you with free healing items. There are multiple quests that are randomly kind of activated alongside events that can mess with your play. You can go near a tower, which will then act as a defensive point. Completing certain missions may award you with NPC party members who will attack alongside you. And of course, you will have to spend your gold to unlock new weapons, new items, passives, and so on. Admittedly, there is a lot that is happening in this one. This one does not have, I think, the same kind of like pick up and play and like turn your brain off appeal that we see from all the bullet heavens. There is persistence in the form of upgrading your base stats, getting new gear that can drop, and all that good stuff. And this is the bullet heaven for someone who really wants like a more advanced version of the genre. Again, if you're someone who likes these kinds of games for kind of a relaxing, just, you know, turn things off, watch pretty lights go boom all around you, then Horde Hunters is not going to be it. But I do like the kind of emphasis on the map progression, or kind of the map really impacting what you're doing, and they can kind of improve the onboarding and kind of the general approachability of this one. This could be a very solid and very different take on the genre. And speaking of very different take on the genre, we have Picayune Dreams. I'm pretty sure I just butchered that name. This is, and I gotta make sure I do this right, a bullet heaven hell? Bullet hell heaven? A weapon or well kind of take on the genre. We are floating through space, and what appears to be enemies that look like a screensaver desktop images from Windows 95 are trying to stop us. We must shoot our way through them, collecting upgrades, and also learning more about the disturbing story about why we are trapped here and why everything is trying to get us. The structure from what we've played of this is that you'll pick a general area to explore, and then you must kill enough enemies to kind of fill an overall progress. When progress is at its peak, a boss fight will come in and the game will then turn into a bullet hell. Now, approachability is definitely, I think, the weakest point in this game. You see, when you get your choice of upgrades when you level up, it is very hard to tell at a glance what any of it does. You'll have to kind of read the pseudocode and just sometimes just make a guess as to what things will impact. And this is definitely one that's on the harder side, especially when the bullet hellness begins. You will also need to make heavy use of the persistence, as it's the only way to unlock the ability to actually get reliable healing, because you only have a few hits before you die, as well as smart bombs as well. So this one is, again, not going to be for someone looking for an easier time for a bullet heaven, but I was getting into this one, and I'm very curious to see where both the story and the bullet hell heavening will end up. So if you like your heavens with a shade of hell or your hells with a shade of heaven, then this is definitely one worth checking out. And we now turn to Bullet Bunny. In this one, you must survive against waves of undead of all shapes, sizes, and I guess general levels of bossiness. I'm not quite sure this one does fit with the Bullet Heaven theme, but this is an action roguelike, where the main aspect here is the variety of cards or upgrades you have available. They'll change your base stats, change how your attacks or properties will behave, unlock more of your specials, and so on. And this one is definitely on the harder side. Once the game starts introducing the elites and boss classes, it suddenly becomes a lot harder to stay alive and stay one step ahead of the hordes of enemies. The persistence in this one comes in the form of unlocking new starting weapons and new starting characters that have different specials. So I enjoy this one. I like the variety of upgrades, and this is another one that's going to be on the challenging side for fans, and I would keep an eye out for it. We now have Heroes of Loot 3, or Heroes of Loot Gauntlet of Power. Another game that I'm not quite sure if fits the Bullet Heaven theme, but this is still a very interesting action roguelike. Our kind of element here is that we have the Gauntlet of Power, and with it we can attach a variety of weapons to it that can be then used, of course, to fight all the baddies that get in our way. The kind of hook here is that when you get a new weapon, you can attach it to a direction on the gauntlet. This will affect the actual firing angle. So if you don't have any weapons shooting to the left, then you need to make sure that the enemies are on the right or vice versa. Putting the same weapon on the same slot will enhance it. This could increase its damage, range, attack speed, so on and so forth. And you must explore procedurally generated dungeons looking for loot and trying to get to the boss and moving to the next floor. So again, I don't think this would qualify as a bullet heaven, but there is certainly potential here for fans of an action roguelike. I'm curious to see where the kind of different interactions and abilities will come into play in the finished version. So if you are looking for an action roguelike, I would definitely check this one out. And with that, we are finished with my best of Bullet Heaven Festival. Please note that this video mainly covered the ones that we did not play yet here on the channel, as there were many more available on the store page, and many more that I am excited about. So let me know what some of your favorites or ones you are really looking forward to in the comments down below, and I will see everyone for the next festival, not to be confused with the next Fest. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games.